guys, Nemo here. So first off, I have some potentially bad news, which is that my computer has been acting up lately. Problem I have, once my computer is started up, no problem at all. But the problem I have is when I try to start up my computer, it just, I have to try like 30 times before it gets past the first load screen in the MS-DOS configuration or whatever that's called. I'm not a whiz kid. I don't know all these terms, and I'm not extremely familiar with computer hardware stuff. I'm good with using a computer, but that's it. If there's a real problem with the hardware, then I'm not good with it. But the problem is that when I start it up, I get this kind of message sometimes, because this error is really sporadic and random. But sometimes, the first time that it happened, well, it started up, and then while it's trying to start up, the screen would remain black, and then it would go off again. My computer would turn off again and turn on again, and then then it said, the attempted overclocking had failed. Well, I don't overclock, so I don't do that stuff. So I don't know why it thought that I was overclocking, and overclocking failed. But that's not what happened. But yeah, and then it had returned it to the default settings, and every once in a while I get that message too, and then every once in a while the computer just does nothing and shuts down like 20 times in a row, and starts up again, and every once in a while it gets stuck on the first screen, and every once in a while it gets stuck on the second screen, MS-DOS, every once in a while, like once in 100 times that I try, it finally starts up. So what I resorted to is that I'm just going to leave my computer on for now until it completely breaks down, I guess. I don't know, but the thing is though that whatever the problem is, it's got to be something like in the power supply or something in the BIOS or whatever, because it thinks I'm overclocking when I'm not. So that's typical. Like, I'm not a whiz kid, I don't know much about computers, but to me that sounds like something is pretty wrong when it thinks that I'm overclocking when I'm not. So probably like something with the power supply or the motherboard or something like that has got to be the case. So I could bring it into a shop to get it looked at, or I could just say, hell, this computer is 4 years old, maybe it's time to get a new one. So anyways, if you guys are not getting a video for like half a week, maybe even a week, I don't know, but then you know what's up. My computer broke down into a little mess on my desk, and it's not usable anymore. That's what happens. So just in case that happens, here's a warning for you guys. Then you know what's up. And well, if that happens, I'm probably getting a new computer. So I don't know what to get yet, but I guess we'll see. Anyways, I gotta hurry up with this video because it's gonna be a deck build. So taking 3 minutes to talk about this problem is probably not the smartest idea when I want to keep these deck builds, short to the point. But I felt like I had to, say that because you guys should know what's up if I'm not on YouTube all of a sudden. So anyways, let's open up the deck manager and look at Crosswinds. Oh yeah, it's already on there. Well, let's go to a random deck, I guess, and then a random deck, and now we're gonna try and hit Crosswinds. Why not? Nope. Okay, that doesn't count because if it doesn't make more than one spin, so that just means that I spun further than Peacekeepers, but it stopped at Peacekeepers because I don't know what's up with that, but it doesn't spin farther than one go. So let's try again. Green Puppets. Well, it's a blue deck, close enough. Anyways, Crosswinds. Crosswinds. I hope that didn't shatter your eardrums if you're wearing headphones. Yeah, sorry about that. Bad voice. Anyways, so the first thing to note about this deck, 25 lands, pretty good for. It's gonna be a control deck, so 25 lands, no problem with that. Maybe even 26 lands would not have been bad, because you're probably, if anything, you're gonna have mana issues where you don't have enough land, because you're gonna draw so many cards, you want to play so much stuff on one turn. Yeah, definitely 26 lands would not have been bad for this deck. Anyways, So if we look at the mana curve over here, we can see that I only have 3 1-drops, and I have 2 9-drops, 9 2-drops, jeez, 2 9-drops. That's a bit expensive even for this deck. But yeah, I have 9 2-drops, and suddenly I have like 5 3-drops, and then 10 4-drops, and 8 5-drops. 8 5-drops, that's a lot. But I don't have any 6-drops, and you know, it's a weird curve like that, but it's okay because turn 3, it's okay if you don't play anything, because the opponent is gonna think that you're trying to, you know, keep the cancel ready for him or something like that. So it's not that terrible that there's a sudden drop over here in turns 3 spot. And you know, if you have a 2-drop and the Sleight of Hand, that's cool too. So no problem there. And you know, the fact that I don't run 6-drops is not that crazy, because the 5-drops in this deck are simply amazing. So why would you need anything higher than 5 mana? Alright, 1-drops. So Curiosity, why don't I run this card? Well, it's a great card, and definitely when I had the 3-1 flyer dudes in there, this card was pretty good. But you know, I don't have that many. If you look at my creature count, it's not that much, it's only 25%. I don't have that much stuff that's going to be attacking the opponent until I know I can win. So Curiosity, basically I have to put it on a dude, then I have to attack with it, even though that's not always the best course of action. But since I drew Curiosity, I don't want that card to do nothing, so I'm gonna attack with my dude. And I give the opponent the chance to 2-for-1 me as well, so not saying this is a bad card, and definitely if you can get in once, then you don't lose in card advantage. But most of the time I found that I only get in once, and then they kill it. And then I didn't lose any card advantage, but I didn't gain any either. And it took me a turn swinging in with my dude and everything. And this is a deck that tries to be defensive, so that's why I don't run Curiosity. Distortion Strike even makes even less sense in this deck. Unblockable. I don't need unblockable dudes. Like, I need dudes that can block the opponent's dudes. I don't need to be attacked. I'm just waiting until I get my combo, or I can see an opening for my drakes and then I attack. But other than that, you know, there's no point in getting these aggressive. And this is some kind of combat trick, but it doesn't even make my dude bigger. So there's no, like, I guess you make a trade into a different kind of trade, because you're still trading card, you're still trading a Hydro Surge for that creature. So but yeah, you have to have a dude out there in the first place. I don't know, this, I guess it's a defensive card, but I just don't see the point in having this card in there, so I'm not gonna run it. I don't think it's useful enough to be a card, basically, is what I'm saying. And it doesn't draw you a different card. Like, that was a card that was like -1, -0, and that drew you a card. Most of the time you just played it and drew another card, and that gave you more chance of having more land in the deck, because the deck kinda had not enough land anyways. But every once in a while it was useful, but useful in combat tricks. But this card tries to be solely useful in combat tricks, and I don't think that's worth it. Not in a blue deck like this. So yeah, anyways, then there's Kraken Hatchling, which is also, now this is Defender, and he's great. Why do I say he's great? Actually, I don't have him in the deck, so he's not great, obviously. Anyways, he's a 1-drop guy that's an 0-4, and that's pretty big for a 1-drop guy, you know. But he doesn't have anything in front, so he's completely a wall. You can attack with him, and I guess you can use Distortion Strike on him if you have both of those in the deck. And there is a card that draws you cards for every attacking creature, which I also don't have in the deck. Little hint there, little spoiler, I guess. But yeah, this dude, he is like completely a defender. There's no point in attacking him with him. And other than that, just as defender, I don't think he's good enough, because he doesn't fly, he doesn't have reach. He just defends, and yeah, the trade-off is that he's a 1-cost defender, which there aren't many of, I wager, I guess. But I just don't think he's worth a card. Like, I'd much rather have this guy if he had reach and cost 2 mana. I'd much rather have him like that. But this way, I don't think he's worth it. And you know, just the fact that he can't reach. Eventually he's gonna die. He does have a lot of toughness, but eventually he's gonna die. He doesn't draw you a card, which many other walls would do, which makes some walls really good. And the opponent doesn't have to deal with it. So you have one card less, because it doesn't draw you a card, and the opponent doesn't have to deal with it. So if he's not relevant, and he sometimes isn't relevant, like against Born of Flame, for instance, he's completely irrelevant because all they do is fly, and one dude that doesn't just kills this instantly. So, or at least in one attack you block. Like, so there's no point there, and just the fact that the opponent doesn't have to deal with it, and even control decks don't have to deal with it. So I don't think he's worth it. And most of the aggro decks have more than one dude. This guy doesn't even kill one dude, so they just lose 1 damage per turn. So yeah, that's the reason I don't use him. So I guess we can immediately go on to the other defenders, because I am using these. Fogbanks. Yeah, I know I'm skipping these cards. Don't care. Like, I'm just trying to explain it in a way that makes sense. So the Fogbanks, on the other hand, these guys, they don't draw you a card either, but they're flyers, so they can at least block the flyer. They can block anything basically, and they don't die from combat damage. So what this means is that if the opponent is trying to kill you with combat damage, then, and almost every deck in the game does, then they have to deal with the Fogbank. They absolutely have to deal with the Fogbank to try to win that way. Okay, I'll check that out later, I guess. So they have to. I guess that's one of the WMG guys is talking about. Yeah, you're being recorded, dude. Anyway, so they have to win with the combat damage. If they have to win with the combat damage, then they have to deal with this guy. So they have to use removal on this guy. And even though he doesn't draw you a card, it's no card disadvantage for you to drop a defender, because they have to deal with it. Because he never dies from just combat damage. So that's why I like this guy. Alright, so anyways, Sleight of Hand is an amazing card. There's no reason not to run this card. It in the very least draws you another card, and it's just 1 mana, so it's in there. Plus, you know, it can draw you a land. So since you can't add the land in this deck, this basically means you have more land in there, because it could draw you potentially a land. So basically having 3 of these in there means that you have a little bit more than 26 lands in comparison. So I guess, you know, just for that reason already, they're great. And you know, you can choose which one you get. So it's just, you know, choosing which card you want to have. That's pretty good, especially in a deck like this, where you just need certain specific cards sometimes to win the game. So yeah, Azure Mage then. Azure Mage I don't like, because this deck isn't trying to be aggressive, so it being a 2-1 doesn't really matter that much. Yeah, it can trade with one guy, but it has 1 toughness, so it's really only gonna trade with one guy. And then, you know, compare it with the Fogbank. This guy can block that one guy indefinitely, so it doesn't really, like, just it doesn't matter if the guy dies if he gets blocked indefinitely. So out of these two, you know, out of all that I just mentioned, the Fogbank is already better. And then occasionally it draws a card, but then you have to tap out the blue. And yeah, you can do it at the end of their turn, but all of the decks have instant spells, so they can sometimes still do something anyways. And like, you're only really gonna draw a card once, and then you're just replacing the Azure Mage herself. Sorry. So, and you know, this ability would be great, I guess, on a guy, if the guy itself was really worth using, then this guy really isn't worth using. At least not in this deck. Like, if it was a more aggressive deck, then maybe. But I certainly don't think this is an aggressive deck, and I certainly haven't built it like one. And favorable wins, again, this is not the most aggressive deck. I'm just trying to survive until I get my combos off. So I don't need favorable wins there. Disperse is an amazing card because it returns non-land, not just a creature. So this is great. Yeah, one little trick you can do with this, if you're playing as Peacekeepers with this deck and play Oblivion Ring on your Panoptic Mirror, yeah, at the end of their turn you play this on their Oblivion Ring, your Panoptic Mirror comes back into play. They end their turn, you untap, tap 5 mana, Time Warp on the Panoptic Mirror, I win. Pretty good trick there. They never see it coming. They think they're safe because they got rid of your Panoptic Mirror, and then, oops, I win. So pretty good trick there. But yeah, Disperse is a great card. You gotta run it. Absolutely no reason not to run it. Mana Leak is a counterspell. You gotta run the counterspells. This is different than most counterspells in that you don't absolutely have to wait for the most optimum time to use it, because eventually, if you're gonna be drawing a lot of lands, and with this deck, if you're doing it right, you probably are, because it's gonna take a while to wait for your combo to come by. So, you know, just trying to survive for a while. So, mana flooded, especially for the opponent, is something that happens a lot with this deck. So eventually, this card isn't gonna be worth anything anymore. So you gotta do this when you see a good chance for it. So you don't absolutely wait for the best time to use it. You just whack, do it, get some tempo advantage out of it. That's the way Mana League works. And then there's the Spiketail Hatchling, which, you know, actually I was debating of not using the Spiketail Hatchling. I think this is the 60th card in the 60 card deck, and with that I mean that out of all these cards that are in my deck, this is the worst one. Yeah, so basically this guy is great if you're on the play and you drop this guy turn 2, then the opponent is in a really difficult spot and they probably have to kill it. On the other hand though, they probably can kill it with something that doesn't even give them card disadvantage or anything. There are plenty of cards that can deal easily with one toughness creature that they maybe have in there to deal with the goblin deck, and then, you know, they wouldn't have a good target for it if Spiketail Hatchling wasn't there. So then they have a good target for it. Stuff like that, and most of those cards aren't worth countering either. So, like, they do that first. They get rid of your Spiketail Hatchling, then they start playing the big dudes. On the other hand, yeah, there is still a different hand yet again. Playing this turn 2 means that you can ensure, you know, being safe until turn 3 when you have the cancel ready, if you have both of them. So that's a good reason to keep this. On the yet another hand, if you draw this late game, it's completely useless to you. Just like, you know, you want to use the Mana Leak quick, but at least this is like free, so even drawing it late game isn't completely useless. But this guy, completely useless. Absolutely no need for him if you draw him late game. So yeah, that's the reason I didn't like him that much. So, you know, out of all of this, I was keeping score with this guy, and half the time I was like, yeah, this guy is useful, and half the time I was like, this guy is useless. So, and then I was trying, you know, to find a different card to add, because all the cards that are not in the deck right now are kind of not really needed in the deck either. So I was looking at a Ring of Evil Style. Yeah, I always say that rings are pretty bad, but this ring is actually not that bad for this deck. So if you're gonna run one of these, because I wouldn't recommend running both of them, absolutely no need to run both of them. But if you were gonna run one of these rings, then I wouldn't be against it. And if you're gonna trade in the Spiketail Hatchling, you know, all the more power to you. It was something I was looking at, but in the end I decided not to. And the reason is that Spiketail Hatchling is kind of a combo, because if you get to, you know, if the opponent is tapped out or something, and you get to copy this dude, get like 5 copies of the Spiketail Hatchling. You know, that's something. That's something the opponent has to deal with. So there's a combo there that pretty much can win you a game. So it just combos a little bit better with the cards that are already in this deck. But out of the two, I think the Ring of Evil's Isle is a better card. And giving hexproof to a blue creature is just amazingly powerful. It's a really good effect, and giving it to Telran is even better. And letting your drakes become bigger, like I said, they're 4 power, so if they get to be a little bit bigger, they kill them in 4 turns rather than 5, so that's big, that's good. And you know, sometimes you just need it, and I don't know, it's good. And if you're playing against Burn and you put it on like one of these fog banks, then you have to kill it faster than they might like it to. Like, there's always a use for this ring. So anyways, it's not a terrible card, but in the end I decided not to run it, and I still like the Spiketail Hatchling a little bit more. But there's a thing to consider, you know. And then Twincast is an amazing card. There's absolutely no reason why you wouldn't run this, and I don't think I really need to explain it, but you know, Twincast on what? Repulse, Twincast, and Rite of Replication, Twincast, and Terran's Invocation, Twincast Bribery, Twincast Time Warp, you know, stuff like that. Pretty good stuff. Not bad at all. Twincast Sleight of Hand if you really have to. You know, if you're drawing bad stuff, then least you can fill up your hand with cards that might be more relevant than what you have at the time. So, you know, it's not a bad decision either. Of course, you don't want to do that, but anyways, Twincast is an amazing card. Just, I wish there were 4 of them, because I would run all 4 of them in this deck. And then Call to Mind, of course, you know, get your Time Warp back, get your amazing cards that are really good back, because there are really good, amazing cards in this deck. So, Call to Mind is a really good card for this deck, because of that reason. Cancel, obviously, they're counterspells, so you run them. And then Repulse is a good card, because it draws you another card. And you get some tempo advantage, and you really need tempo advantage with this deck. Arm with Aether, again, I'm not really attacking that much. I see the appeal for this deck, this card though, because, you know, even if you're like, you're trying to stay behind, but if you draw this card, then maybe you don't need to stay behind, because all the dudes go back to their hand. So I see the appeal. I just, in testing especially, I found that there wasn't enough times that I found it useful, and there aren't always good guys on my end of the table that can even attack. So just for that reason, I don't use it. And keep watch. You know, you gotta keep mana open. You gotta use this instead of like a Repulse or a Cancel. And I again wasn't finding enough reasons to keep it in the deck, and not enough times that I thought that Keep Watch was really useful to me. So, and Skywinder Drake. This guy is just a completely aggressive creature in a deck that isn't trying to be aggressive. So there's no reason to run that guy. Dehydration is an interesting card. You know, again, one of those cards that I found that, you know, sometimes it's useful, but sometimes it isn't. It's not a powerful card, but it's an effect that can be really powerful in a blue deck. But you know, just this deck has enough cards that are powerful enough that you don't really need this. And then Archaeomancer is an obvious inclusion, just because, you know, you got, like I said with the Call to Mind, you got a lot of cards that are really powerful, and they're even more powerful if you play them twice. So, Rite of Replication, I already talked about this, but this is not a game winner, so you gotta have it in there. And I like it 3 times, because I like to have my game winners and, you know, get to draw them as often as possible, even if they're doubles. Sometimes even getting 2 of these, even the second Rite of Replication isn't bad. It might not be amazing, but it isn't gonna be bad. Terran's Invocation, these guys are just so strong that even though they tend to try and be aggressive a little bit, they are a really good fit for this deck just because it's a really powerful card. And you know what, you got 2 blockers, so even in a non-aggressive deck, it fits. And Telrund is, of course, great because you just drop this. You gotta, you know, untap with him once, but if you get to untap with him, like, unless they can kill you that turn, and you don't have your cancel ready to prevent it, then tapping out to play Telrund isn't bad, because they have to kill it anyway, so they have to spend their resources in killing it. But of course you want to get some advantage out of him, like, so most of the time you play in turn 6 when you have also some kind of like a mana leak or a Disperse, or turn 7 when you have the cancel or the repulse ready to save him. So, you know, you get a Drake out of him, and then they have to deal with him yet again. That's a pretty good way to use him. And you know, if he gets landed on the table and you get him out for a couple of turns, and you get so much advantage out of him that just simply wins you the game. And the same goes for Future Sight, which I only run 1 of. Actually, you know, let me check. Is there are these the same? They don't look the same. Which one of them is the Bling Blau? Oh, this is the one. Okay, there. That one isn't going to be used then. This is the one that blinks. So I like to have that one in my deck, I guess. The one exception is Flame Wave in Born of Flame. I don't even have Flame Wave in my deck, but if I was gonna run one, then I wouldn't run the one that blinks, because I don't think that one looks as good as the original one, the one that doesn't. But anyways, random trivia there. Anyways, Bribery is an amazing card, really powerful. So you know, there's no reason not to run. Followed Footsteps is another way to get infinite combos if you play it on Archaeomancer and have Time Warp in the graveyard, and even if you don't, like, there are so many good things to target with Followed Footsteps, so you're never gonna be disappointed with it. And even if they kill their own dude, like, because you almost always want to play it on their dude, unless of course you have the Archaeomancer and go for the infinite combo. But otherwise you're probably gonna play it on their dude, and they have to 2-for-1 themselves. to get rid of it. So, you know, not bad. Future Sight, yeah, already said it. If you have this guy out for a while, then you get so much card advantage. But drawing both of these is absolutely, completely 0% useful. So I only run one of them, and if I have to get rid of one of the 5-drops, then I'm glad that I found one that I have a good excuse to get rid of, because there are so many powerful 5-drops in this deck. So, you know, I definitely don't want to run more than 8 of them. So this is the one that goes, and also this one, because again, I'm not trying to be too aggressive. It does shut down goblins. It probably shuts down peacekeepers, but come on, that's just 2 decks. And aside from that, it gives my flyers more power, but I don't always win with the flyers. I don't always even have any flyers out there, so or at least flyers that can attack. So, you know, yeah. I don't feel that this card is always going to be useful, so I don't run it. And especially not compared to these cards, which are almost always going to be useful. And Tidings, this doesn't have an impact on the game. Turn 5, it draws you 4 cards, but that's great. But it doesn't have an impact on the game. So everything that has an impact is like Future Sight, which is a completely amazing card. Panoptic Mirror, which is an amazing card, and Followed Footsteps, which is these 3 cards are just so. These 3 cards are just so broken that even though they don't have an immediate impact, if you get to untap with them, then you're in such a great position that, you know, you run these. But this is just draw 4. Don't think that's worth tapping out for on turn 5, when you could be playing like Sphinx of the Last Truths, which is also gonna draw you 3 cards, but it's also gonna be a free 5. You know, big dude on the field, good blocker, so you're gonna survive and get to untap with the 3 cards you draw. Yeah, if you play him for 5, then sure, you have to discard 3 cards. But come on, think about it. Like, most of the time, turn 5, you're just looking for like your combo, like you're looking for Panoptic Mirror or whatever. So you get to choose which ones you discard. It's not like you discard 3 and then draw another 3. Like, if you have a good card of 3 cards, then even dropping this dude as a free 5 flyer isn't bad. It's not bad. A free 5 flyer for 5, not bad. And you just get rid of the 3 cards you drew if your hand is already good. So, like, dropping him turn 5, not bad at all. And you know, if you get to kick him, even better. So there's my opinion on him. And Spiketail Drake is a threat that you don't really tap out for, because you can still counterspell some, or well, you can mana leak something. So, you know, it's a mana leak on a stick, flying 3/3, and flying 3/3 is, you know, never bad. And if you get to, you know, again, it's a combo piece, because if you get to Rite of Replication, your Spiketail Drake, then you pretty much win that game. There's not much you can do when there's 2 or even 6 Spiketail Drakes in the field. Then the opponent really can't play anything. So that's pretty good. And of course, Time Warp is in there, because, you know, it's this deck. Time Warp is in this deck. Yeah, you play it. And Panoptic Mirror is in the deck. So yeah, I don't know what else to say. I think everybody knows the combo, but if you don't, Panoptic Mirror, inscribe Time Warp on it, you get infinite turns. There you go. And you don't have to do it on your turn. Like, you don't have to, it doesn't cost you 2 turns. If you drop Panoptic Mirror and then they let you go, then you've already done it. You've already won. Because you just go stop when at upkeep when this thing is trying to go off. You put Time Warp on it at instant speed. This thing goes off, you get your infinite turns. Done. So the only, like, I actually had one game where I did win when the opponent inscribed the Time Warp on the Panoptic Mirror, and that was actually interesting. You know what? I had the free cast thing in the green deck that destroys target permanent, and I just let him untap with the Panoptic Mirror because I knew he had Time Warp and he knew he was gonna put it on there. So he untapped, he put the Time Warp on the mirror, and if you don't know, it exiles the Time Warp, and it actually has a copy under the. So whenever you play the Panoptic Mirror, it plays a copy of Time Warp. It doesn't play the actual card. So the card itself, the Time Warp, is exiled. So I knew, like, I got rid of one of his Time Warps that way. It was just exiled, gone, and there was no way of getting it back. Beast Within is the card I was talking about. So yeah, I let him untap, let him put the Time Warp on it, but before the Panoptic Mirror went off, I just went Beast Within, haha, and the guy like sad passed for like 30 seconds. It was hilarious. But anyway, yeah. And then there's cards like Time Reversal, which I don't really even see the point of having this card. Yeah, why would you want to draw 7 cards? Like, most other decks are more aggressive than you, so they got better uses for the 7 cards they draw. It exiles those cards, so you can't even get them back. You can't combo or something. Or do it. Yeah, no, it doesn't exile this card, but they go back into your library, so you can't, like, you know, get them back with some kind of combo and try and go off like that. The only reason you would want to use this is if you know you're playing against a mill deck, which you don't know. And Cerulean Sphinx again, also only against the mill deck. This is actually interesting against the mill deck, by the way. I already talked a little bit about this one, but yeah, let me have this little fun and tell you about this story. I was playing Cerulean Sphinx when I was testing it against the mill deck, and they didn't have one of those, you know, Mifrus or whatever, you know, that draws you an extra card on your untap phase. So what he did, he milled me to 0 cards, just straight up mill cards. Like, you know, play a card, the opponent mills 7, stuff like that. So straight up mill cards milled me out of the game. I went to 0, and he had Cerulean Sphinx on the board. He said go, and I said, wait, you know, I'm gonna use his ability, shuffle it back into my library. Anyway, I'm gonna draw a card. Oh hey, wow, just the card I needed, because I'm gonna, you know, play this, and guess what? Next turn I'm gonna do the same thing. So that was pretty hilarious, and a good use for Cerulean Sphinx again. But other than that, he's a 5/5 for 6, 5/5 flyer for 6. You don't really need him. So yeah. Flow of these, another 6 cost spell. Yeah, it's great, you draw 6 cards. But if I'm not gonna be running Tidings, which is an indefinitely better card just because of the 1 mana, I'd say it costs less. And 4 cards and 6 cards, that doesn't really matter that much. So Tidings is a much better card than Flow of these. And I'm not running Tidings, so I'm not running Flow of these. And Recurring Insight is even worse than both of those, so I'm not running that either. Because, you know, it's 6 mana, most of the time the opponent isn't gonna have much in their hand, so you're mostly gonna just draw 2 cards, and then the turn after gonna draw like 1 more card, because the opponent sees you play this and is like, yeah, I'm gonna empty my hand, so he doesn't draw stuff. So yeah, Blatant Thievery is a card that you wouldn't run in 1v1, you would run this in Two-Headed Giant or stuff like that. That's what this card is for, because you get to use it on a permanent for each opponent. And plus, in Two-Headed Giant or games like that, you know, you usually have more mana out because the games tend to last longer. So it being a 7 cost spell doesn't matter that much. So yeah, this card is great in games like that, in multiplayer formats, but not in 1v1. That's not what this card is for, so you don't use it for it. And this card is great, amazing, but you got on tap with it on turn 8. And that's, you know, even being positive. 'Cause of course, you're not gonna have 7 mana turn 7 most of the time. You're gonna have like 5 mana turn 7 or 6 mana turn 7. By the time you get to 7 mana, you're gonna be at turn 10. So this card is a little bit late. Same goes for the Day of the Dragons. Yeah, I like these cards. They're great, but you have to be able to untap with it, and it's so late that, you know, you want to be able to make a dent in the opponent's plans a little sooner than that. So you want to get cards that you can play earlier than that. And most of the time, even if you get these off, and you might even win the game off them, but most of the time you would have won if you didn't have this, because you would have been able to do something earlier. So the opponent would not have been able to build up that board state that you were able to use this card to get rid of, I guess. So, you know, you got to see it like that as well. Of course, you know, if you have the man out there and then you draw this card, then you're really, really lucky, because that doesn't happen often. And Goliath Sphinx is a completely vanilla dude, an 8/7 flyer for 7. That's a little bit expensive, and this is a game winner, even more than any of the other ones. But again, it's 7 mana, so. And Time Stretch is just a complete stretch. It's a 10 mana. Oh man, I'm using other people's jokes, but this is a joke. You know, I was thinking of myself already before I saw it, so wasn't doing it on purpose, you know. Anyways, that's the deck. Only 40 minutes? I like it. Let's go back, save and quit. And if you got any questions, again, of course, feel free to ask. Gameplay is gonna be coming up unless my computer breaks down into tears, to a puddle of uselessness. A puddle of uselessness. Man, I should be a poet, I guess. Not really. No. But yeah, so unless my computer completely breaks down and don't get the chance to do it, I'm gonna get gameplay for this deck. So yeah, see you guys with that. My name has been Nemo, and I will still be Nemo next time.